Time for another edition of the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast with you as always, Jeff Chadiha from the NFL Network, Sam McDowell from the Kansas City Star. My name is Soren Petro from Sports Radio 810 WHB. Thank you for joining us here on a Tuesday night. The Chiefs have been eliminated, and they do so in dramatic fashion as their quarterback is sent off the field with a knee injury. Is it acceptable for a franchise to miss the postseason when you have Patrick Mahomes as your quarterback? Was a major injury to Mahomes inevitable? Way he runs around, the chances, the risks he takes to try to keep plays alive. Is it official the offense is broken, outdated? Do the Chiefs need a complete overhaul at the skill positions? What about this team? Is it soft? The defense shines again without Trent McDuffie. What does that mean for his future? We're talking about all of that right here on the Red, Gold, and Bold. We do it right now. Let's go.
You are listening to the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast, the most in-depth analysis of the Kansas City Chiefs on planet Earth, breaking down the Chiefs like no one else can. Red, Gold, and Bold is hosted by Jeff Chadiha, Sam McDowell, and Soren Petro. Jeff Chadiha is a senior columnist and on-air personality for the NFL Network and NFL.com. Sam McDowell is a columnist for the Kansas City Star. Soren Petro is the afternoon drive host of the program on Sports Radio 810 WHB in Kansas City. The Red, Gold, and Bold podcast is proudly brought to you by Gann Asphalt and Concrete, Kansas City's nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor, making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews, and every project comes with a written warranty. Find them online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, one contractor, all things parking lot. Now, here are the hosts of the Best Chiefs podcast, Jeff Chadiha, Sam McDowell, and Soren Petro.
Thank you very much, Curtis. We do appreciate it. Off and running here and talking about a team that has not made the playoffs for the first time in 10 years. Sam, let's start with you. Is it acceptable for a franchise that has Patrick Mahomes to ever not make the postseason?
I don't think so. I mean, I think the lasting image of this team is going to be Patrick Mahomes walking down the tunnel, torn ACL, torn LCL. But to me, the real story of this season is how they failed with him on the field. And when you're 6-8 with that quarterback, I understand that there's an appreciation for the run the Chiefs have been on, 7 straight AFC Championship games. This will be the first time this guy has not lost in the overtime period of an AFC Championship game. But to me, we shouldn't be talking about and reminiscing about this era as if though it's past tense. I mean, this was the year that they should have benefited more than any other from the offseason, that they pushed all their chips to the middle of the table. You know, of course, you know, something like this happens. You tend to look up the other great quarterbacks, and Tom Brady never missed the playoffs after age 25, other than the year that he literally missed. Peyton Manning never missed the playoffs after age 25, other than the year that he literally missed with an injury. I just think when you have the elite of the elite talent of the most important position, the bare minimum is to get the rest of it right enough to at least be in the dance. And this year, when there is no great AFC team that's risen to the top, I don't think there's an excuse just because the rest of the years have gone right to have this year go so wrong.
That's interesting because I want to highlight you said they after the age of 25 they didn't miss the playoffs, but they did miss it before that. And Patrick Mahomes took over on a team that was, because I think it's a good point, but I also think there's kind of a, he took over a team that was a playoff team where those guys took over bad teams or teams that were on the rise, on the ascent, maybe not as established. He took over an established built team, and maybe this is just as far as it can go. The Brady one's amazing, right? Like it is. Once it got up going, it was his second year as a starter, his third year in the league when they didn't make it. They were 9-7. Otherwise, they made it every year. Even the year that he didn't play, they were 11-5 without him and lost on a tiebreaker, which is pretty hard to do. But so I guess I would wonder. I think it's a great stat. I would wonder: is this kind of their downslope? Is this their is it out of his control? Which is to your point. Well, it shouldn't be, right? He should be the guy that fixes everything. Yeah, I love it. I love the topic. Jeff, what about you? You think it's acceptable to miss, one time, two times? What's your feeling?
It's a tough question. I think it's a really good question. I think there's very few.
Thanks, I appreciate
it.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, Sam's question, by the way. That's why he's batting leadoff here. As I think about it, I mean, look, I've always said, no matter how great your quarterback is, if you get to a place where you don't have a great supporting cast around him, they're not going to have a ton of success. And Patrick Mahomes by himself is not enough to make this a playoff team. And so that is, I think, the first realization everybody, or the takeaway that should come from this season, is that greatness at quarterback does not mean instant success. And I know that this town has been longing for this type of quarterback forever and thinking that championships would have come back in the Derek Thomas days, but there was no guarantee that would have happened either. And so I do think, as you pointed out, Soren, this is more an example of how Mahomes was dropped into a great situation and made it better, and it's gotten worse as time has gone by. And so that's really what the Chiefs have to look at and figure out is, where did this thing begin to decline? Because I think they've been defying gravity for 3 years. I mean, they 11-6 season, they got a championship out of it. Some things went right last year when they were 15-2, but they weren't a 15-2 team. And then this year is really when things fell apart. And I think all this is just really, again, just it epitomizes how hard it is to sustain success in the NFL, and how much of a challenge lies ahead for this team. Because when you think about the Patriots and what they did, Bill Belichick was always thinking about, all right, these guys who are great players, we can flip them and get more for them moving forward and help us down the road. I think this team has been built more about trying to get Andy Reid as many championships as he can before he's done coaching.
I get him. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that is in their head. Hey, we want to, we want to do it for Andy, but also I think the three-peat, they might have been better off if they, won a different one. I don't want to ever say you'd be better off not winning a title, right? But if you could have picked a different year where they weren't set up to go for the three-peat, their decision making might have been better. I'm with Sam. I think they made decisions based upon trying to win that third one in a row, and then after that, when they didn't get it, they're like, well, four appearances in a row. And, I'm not sure why they – I think we are going to look back and say, boy, the Trey Smith and Nick Bolton, like that was the time to reset. You didn't win the Super Bowl. You know what the big picture is. We all said it at the time. Like, this is a lot of money to give to positions that are not considered to be the premium positions on the football field. But to Sam's point, and Sam articulated this very well today on the radio show too, that like, you're like, okay, I don't agree with this move because I think long-term it's going to hurt you. But this year, and you reiterated, Sam, it's supposed to help you this year. Yeah. And so, and I think part of the problem is that the offensive line did have problems, and Trey Smith was hurt. And, I think Nick Bolton was Nick Bolton, but that also are the weaknesses that he has when it comes to coverage. So, yeah, I think I will disagree with you when you say it's not acceptable. I think it is acceptable. I mean, I think we can point out the mistakes. I think they need to admit the mistakes. They need to do what it takes. But I just think it's so hard now in the NFL. The one thing that I would say if I were to backtrack off that is there's an extra playoff team now. It is even easier. There's 7 instead of 6. And so from that standpoint, if I were like to hesitate, I just think asking a franchise to never fall below a certain line even once during the course of a quarterback's career, I think that's a lot. I just think that's a little too much to ask. But I do think like this isn't just like, well, it was beyond our control. They're here, and I think the important thing, Sam, is for them to understand is they're here based upon the decisions that they've made.
Yeah, and like Jeff had said that and I agree with him that this is a reminder of how difficult it is in the NFL. And I think this should be a reminder of how difficult it is to do what they've done in the last 7 years. And it's a remarkable streak going to the AFC Championship 7 straight years. And like I said, at bare minimum, going to overtime of the AFC Championship for 7 straight years. But to me, this year is a reminder of how difficult it is to actually miss the playoffs with this group. Look at all that has had to go wrong for them to miss the playoffs. If they had beaten the Chargers in the opener, they're still like in playoff position. If they had beaten the Chargers in this game, we're not talking about a team yet that has missed the playoffs. If they hadn't, if the pass hadn't gone off a Hall of Fame tight end's hands in the Eagles game and the Texans game, we're still probably talking about a team that's going to the playoffs. If they had converted one of the non 3-and-outs that they had against Denver, we still might be talking. We're talking about a team that's at least still alive for the playoffs. I just think so much had to go wrong. You went 1-7 in one-score games. You went 1-8 in games in which you were trailing at any point in the second half. And I mentioned this too today on your radio show, Soren. In 7 of their 8 losses, they had a 45% chance to win at some point in the fourth quarter of those games. In 6 of the 8 games, they were favored at some point in the fourth quarter. There's a lot that had to go wrong for this to go really wrong and miss the playoffs altogether. And Soren, you put a comment up earlier, and this is the part of, to me, the inexcusable part. And I think it was from Ben that you put up earlier. It's not just that they're out of the playoffs. They're playing 3 meaningless football games in December.
Early.
It's week 16, and they've already been eliminated from the playoffs.
Yeah. But again, this speaks to personnel moves bad personnel moves are easily masked when you've got great players playing great. And so I've said it time and again, there's so many things that Chris Jones and Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes did over the last 3 years to really mask a lot of the deficiencies. And I would challenge anybody on this podcast or who's listening or the three of us, name me all the plays this year where you think, man, that was a great play that guy made to change a game or to really there aren't that many. You start thinking about, what did Isaiah Pacheco do that you remember? Like, what did Kareem Hunt do that you remember? What has Rashid Rice done? How many things has he done? Xavier Worthy. And Travis Kelce's got a few. You start going down the list, and that's the problem. I can look at Buffalo and name a zillion things James Cook's done. Yeah, I can look at the Rams or other teams, the Cowboys with George Pickens. They don't have those kind of players right now.
There's a lot of guys that have had great games, but to your point, Jeff, no special teams touchdowns this year, no defensive touchdowns this year. And you look back at the last 2 years, I mean, the touchdown in Germany, I think, was a signature moment for that team a couple of years ago, where the Mike Edwards interception, the lateral to Brian Cook, but no defensive touchdowns and no explosive runs for touchdowns all year long. Like, those are big plays that are wild swings in games that they haven't had this year. I think it's a great point.
I want to highlight this point as well, Jeff. But the Patriots had a terrible division for 20 years, right? I think that is something, Jeff, you've talked about. Sean Payton coming to this division, Jim Harbaugh coming to this division. It really is. It is stunning how god-awful the AFC East remained as just a constant during that entire run. And this looks more like the Ravens and the Steelers division now, and really the Bengals even of late, where you've got 3 teams that, like, hey, they got quarterbacks, they got coaches, like the water, so that's why I'll come back to and say I think it actually is a little bit, I tend to lean towards it's okay to miss with Patrick Mahomes because they don't have the Patriots set up from that standpoint. It has not been made as easy for them. They finally are facing real competition, and they faced it last year and got through it, because it was year 1 for Jim Harbaugh, but he was a playoff team. And it was at least 2, if not 3 for Sean Payton last year. I mean, now the full power of those coaches and their abilities are there. And, the Chargers even took on a lot of water with injuries. But, Jeff, you've talked about that all year. And that is one of the reasons to maybe have some lenience towards accepting a season that doesn't go to the postseason.
Think about the plays the Chargers made in that game. They're down 10-0. If that's Anthony Lynn coaching that team or Brandon Staley, they probably get ran out of the building. They go down for a halftime and throw a touchdown pass, a great throw by Philip Rivers by Justin Herbert, a great play call. They get a touchdown that gets them back into the game. They get a big interception that Mahomes throws a pass down the sideline to Kareem Hunt, and Henley jumps in and takes that away. It's like they're making these plays. Denver was making those plays when they played them. And those plays weren't getting made during this great run by those kind of teams. And when they did have opportunities to make them, they dropped the ball. The kick got blocked or things happened. And so, I think that it's the Patriots certainly benefited from that, but the Chiefs have certainly benefited from a lot of boobs coaching a lot of these other teams for a long time over the last 7 years.
Yeah. I think for sure. I think that's been a big part of the equation. All right, we'll talk about the injury to Patrick Mahomes when we come back after you hear from our friends at Gann Asphalt and Concrete. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, proudly serving the greater Kansas City area. Nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor. Locally owned and making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Let Gann educate you about the most cost-effective way to solve your parking lot problems. Free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews. Every project comes with a written warning. Gann Asphalt keeps your parking lot safer and helps you and your business avoid unnecessary delays and costly expenses. Find Gann online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lot. Northland Injury Law, Kansas City's Google 5-star rated personal injury lawyers, serving KC for more than 40 years, voted Kansas City's #1 accident lawyers, helping people with serious injuries from car accidents, work accidents, falls, and other personal injuries. Northland Injury Law doesn't get paid unless they get money for their client. Don't wait, get compensated now. If you have a case, text HURT to 22222. That's HURT to 22222 or call 816-400-HURT. That's 816-400-4878. The choice of a lawyer is an important one and should not be based solely upon advertisements. All right, let's talk a little bit about the injury to Patrick Mahomes, Jeff. Was it inevitable, the way Patrick Mahomes runs around, tries to extend plays, that at some point he was going to take the shot? We've seen him have a number of different leg injuries before. Was this just inevitable?
I don't know if the severity was inevitable, but certainly he was going to start getting nicked up more and more. We were talking about this in week 1, and he was the leading rusher for most of the season. He's not a guy who's afraid to put his shoulder down, take on tacklers. He's in awkward positions a lot. Even in that game, I was watching the replay earlier today, and Owe had a shot on him that was, I thought, even more scary, that he could have gotten hurt on, where he was tackled from behind, didn't see him, and he was off balance. And so, yeah, I mean, to have it happen at the end of the game the way it happened, it was alarming. But he's been dinged up before, and my concern now is moving forward. One, when he comes back, how much is he going to want to push this to be on the field, maybe before he's 100% ready to go, and what kind of quarterback he's going to be moving forward, because now he's getting older, and it's hard to be that swashbuckling cavalier, make plays all over the field type guys. Tom Brady could have this kind of injury and keep playing for 15 more years because he's throwing from the pocket. Like, this guy likes to move around and make things happen, and it's going to be a little different for him moving forward.
Good. Did we see the last of this version of Patrick Mahomes when he comes back? Is he going to have to transform his game, Sam?
I think the real answer is none of us know, and none of us know what his timeline is. I mean, there's tons of predictions about the timeline, and I know all the Twitter medical people have suggested, okay, here's exactly when he's going to be back, and I mean literally medical people. But like, the real answer is we don't know what Patrick Mahomes is going to be and when he's going to be Patrick Mahomes again. I mean, the reality is, like, to get this ligament back in place, it takes 1 to 2 years. It's probably like in this 8 to 10 month window that he's going to be returned. I know the Chiefs are going to be pushing, and he is going to be pushing to be back in week 1, but the reality of that is not going to come into view until 2 to 3 months into this rehab for whether or not that's a realistic possibility. And so, I mean, right now, this is just a complete unknown for not only what the Chiefs look like for the rest of this year, but what the Chiefs look like for next year, because whatever you think of the Chiefs should do in the offseason, and there's a ton that we were already prepared to discuss about this offseason was going to look like, now all of a sudden this takes precedent over everything. Now this is the biggest question hovering over their offseason is, when is Patrick Mahomes going to next throw a pass, and what's he going to look like? And Jeff's right. I mean, the priority needs to be to get Patrick Mahomes back to being Patrick Mahomes, because part of this thing that he's going to go through now is a mental battle for when he feels like himself again. And if I'm the Chiefs, I'm waiting until he feels like himself again before I put him back on the field. I think one advantage he has that could also in the same term work against him is that he throws the ball from different arm angles. I think he's got, different ways to release the ball, but you don't want him dependent on that. That needs to be the luxury of Patrick Mahomes, not the way that he operates, because that's the way he's only comfortable moving the ball, because this is his plant leg. that he's going to be throwing off of, and that is a difference when it's your front facing leg that is the one that you need to be a little bit more mobile as you throw the ball.
As far as mobility, I will point out Trent Green talked about it. He said Trent's own injury, Tom Brady's injury. He said that's actually the better knee to have it because you're not putting that weight. It's not the one you're driving off of. He said, Dante Culpepper never really came back. His was on his back leg on it. So he thought that was actually the good thing on that. It's the one that you stride forward, but you're driving through with the back leg. And so he thought that was a positive.
I think that would be different based on the quarterback, Soren. I think, for the Tom Brady quarterback, I think, you would be more concerned about the plant leg. And I said that backwards earlier, but I think you would be concerned more about the plant leg in that situation because you're not mobile, right? When you are mobile and you're throwing from these different arm angles and you're moving suddenly, and that's the way you avoid, Patrick Mahomes avoids contact differently than the way Tom Brady avoided contact. I mean, watch Phillip Rivers play the game he just played Sunday as a 44-year-old quarterback. The way he avoids contact is he gets rid of the ball really quickly. The way Patrick Mahomes avoids contact is he likes to move. He likes to scramble out of the pocket. And with this leg and, with throwing suddenly in different lanes, I think this one could be a little bit more challenging.
Well, and I think his footwork. He's always had that issue of sometimes his footwork can get out of whack. And when you have this kind of injury, it can affect your confidence and how you're moving around if you get into weird places. I think, I agree with Sam's point about a true drop back passer. I think that's more of less of an issue for them. But I think guys like Mahomes who can move around and do different stuff and rely on that, you could see him getting some bad habits based off.
And I agree with that premise, but how much longer was he going to be a move around guy? Like this will expedite the process of him becoming a pocket guy, but he's going to have to. And I think that's one of the things. Like he may be a guy like Donovan McNabb. But why did Donovan McNabb get old at 32, where Tom Brady didn't get old though? He still thinks he can play at 48, right? Like, is it because of that without the mobility, without the ability to buy time? We find out that as a stationary target, they just can't do it. I mean, that's a hurdle that Patrick Mahomes is going to have to overcome. He's going to have to adjust. And Aaron Rodgers, to me, is kind of proof. Aaron Rodgers was pretty damn mobile and would buy some time and step around things and do all that kind of stuff. To me, that's the example of the best case scenario of a guy that ages pretty well, over time, and the arm skills are there and maybe even get even better as the legs erode. But,
that's the most sacked quarterback in NFL history you just named. But yeah.
Well, in Mahomes, listen, that's why I'll tell you that I wrote this question, and it's because, yes, it was inevitable. And I'm surprised it took this long because it's something that, my buddies who watch games with me are like, I know, I've heard it. I'm like, because I would say it all the time. I'm like, it's going to be a big one of these days. It's coming. Like there were so many times that he got hit. You're like, that didn't look good. And then he gets up. Maybe he gets up and it's a sprained ankle. He's hobbling around, but guys falling into the knees. Just the way it's not just the mobility and running and trying to avoid things. It's the way he hangs in there.
Yeah.
And I think this is an accumulation of all that because he was hurt coming into this game. He was on the injury report. He was limping in the game on that leg before it went down. How much was it already banged up? And it's just like, as a competitor, he's not going to stop. I mean, I do think it's going to be really important for him to shift gears into the Peyton Manning stage of his career. I mean, I remember times when Peyton Manning felt the rush, it wasn't really there, and he'd like turtle. You're like, good Lord, like, what are you doing? But like, he understood how important he was, and he wasn't going to put himself in jeopardy because the team wasn't going to win without him. And I think Patrick Mahomes is going to have to understand that. He's going to have to play more on time, not entirely, but more. And eventually one day, always on time. And I think he's going to have to protect himself better. And that might mean throwing it away. And I think that means that the Chiefs have to lean more towards the offensive side of the ball, which they already do weight-wise on Cap. But they're going to have to not miss on the offensive side of the ball so he can play that way and make sure that he's always got protection and that he's always got people that can get open. So he doesn't feel like he has to extend a play to 8 seconds to try to make something happen. I think this is a tectonic shift in how this team has to view themselves moving forward.
Well, there's one more piece of that, which feeds into the next question, Soren, which is you got to have an offensive scheme that's built to have a quarterback play that way too.
Yeah. And is that how much of that is the problem, Sam?
Well, I think, something that I've harped on and I'll harp on one more time is that this was a scheme, and because of other factors as well with personnel, that it's particularly difficult to play quarterback where the quarterback has to make extra stuff happen with his legs, with extending plays. I mean, when you talk about the scheme in general, I think what's most damning to this team is its worst two offensive performance have been in week 15 and week 14. And indicative of this team over the previous 7 years was whatever they were at any point, they at least got better as the year progressed. Last year's offense was not great. You know what its best four offensive performances were? Week 14, 15, 16, and 17. The last four times that Patrick Mahomes was on the field was their best four offensive performances collectively. This team, like I just said, it's worse. 6 of their best 7 offensive showings were their first 8 weeks of the season. Those were without Rashee Rice, by the way. And like I said, I think you could look at it and say, okay, they're missing their offensive linemen these last 2 games. They're missing Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy in week 1. They're playing with Hollywood Brown not having played in training camp, not having played in the preseason in week 1. And I think a lot of this, by the way, points to the running game as well, and never getting any rhythm whatsoever, and the failures of the offseason to adequately supplement the backfield talent that you had. But this, I think a lot of what this offseason should question is, why did you get worse as the season went on? And part of that is what you said to me today, sir, on the radio show. Did you just become predictable? Did teams know what they should expect from your offense? And whatever those pocket passers you look at that you mentioned, Soren, I mean, you look at the Lions, Jared Goff isn't mobile at all. You look at some of these other offenses, the thing you can't say about them is you can't say they're predictable offensively.
Yeah. Jeff, I mean, to the point of predictability, I mean, it was kill shots the Chargers were putting on the Chiefs receivers. They knew where they were going to be, and they were blowing them up. I mean, I'll answer the question. Is it official the offense is broken, that it's outdated? Yes. Like, it is official. And I don't mean that to say, like, fire everybody, but, like, because I think there's part of it. When you go 15-2, what are you supposed to do? Completely reinvent yourself? No. I mean, I think it's, like, this is kind of the winner's tax. The idea of, like, let's go – we got to overturn every stone to figure out how to get better. You're already 15-2. Like, if you all of a sudden run the wishbone and you go 8-9, everyone's like, you dumbass. Why'd you change what wasn't broken? Right. So, I mean, this is just kind of the nature. The NFL has to tell you it's time to change. But I don't think there's any way they can look in the mirror, Jeff, and not go, all right, this offense is a problem.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think that's unquestioned at this stage. And that also means saying Andy Reid's a problem, right? That's the bigger commentary you have to make is that.
Are the two of them together? I mean,
it's his offense. Yeah. He's the one calling the plays.
Well, he's responsible for it, but does that mean he can't change it?
No, I mean, he can change it, but will he change it? You know, he's at a stage now. He did it before when he came in here and Alex Smith was the quarterback, and he went to, took a more traditional West Coast offense and added more college passing concepts to it and created what Patrick Mahomes exploded into. Can he do it again? There's not a lot of offensive coaches out there that have all these tricks they can keep pulling out of their ass to reinvent themselves. I mean, at some point, Mike Shanahan got stale. At some point, Mike Holmgren got stale. At some point, the Bill Walsh offense got figured out. It eventually you kind of hit your expiration date. And so for Andy Reid, the thing about Andy Reid, I'll say, is that he doesn't have to do crazy stuff. He has to look at what other people are doing and say, we can do that. We can run the football. We can be more play action. We can find receivers who can beat man coverage and win up the line of scrimmage. These aren't like the answers are already out there. It's just a question of whether they want to choose them and embrace them, because what they've embraced so far is our quarterback's better than anybody else. We put him out there with some really cool stuff, and we're going to win a bunch of games. That's not going to work anymore. Like, they got to go out and look at what Sam mentioned, Jared Goff in Detroit. I mean, they've got great weapons around Jared Goff. Josh Allen in Buffalo. People talk about his receivers, but James Cook has been a great weapon for him. He's rushed for 1,400 yards.
Yeah,
it's a huge weapon to have. They got to think about those kind of players coming here.
The running back, the talent of the running backs around these offenses you're talking about. I mean, even the Rams, like Blake Corum's now proving to be it's not just Kyron Williams, it's Blake Corum as well, who's running really well for the Rams. The Lions, we know, have a great 1-2 punch with the running backs. That goes without saying. You know what else? Like, are the Chiefs the only offense where a number of their receivers look like they need a sandwich? I mean, I'm on Ross St. Brown. Like, you watch a video, it's him and his dad in the weight room, and they're getting after it like linebackers. Deebo Samuel, I know he's oft injured, but when he's He's a dynamic player. He's like 220 pounds. DK Metcalf, AJ Brown, like guys that like receivers are not little spindly, skinny kids that were, running the 400 or something in high school. They're guys that in the day played linebacker. And that's not what the Chiefs wide receivers look like. I mean, I think that is part of it as well as like, I think they need to look at every part of their offense as to, okay, where are we lagging behind? What are we missing? And I think I can't stress enough, Xavier Worthy, the 40 time is great, but I mean, that is like that should be the final one. Like we got the guy we really wanted. We traded up to get him and he's not effective. I mean,
yeah. And so much of this stuff is like, if you look back at Andy Reid's history in Philadelphia, and this is actually a Green Bay philosophy too, to be honest with you, it's like he's always gotten comfortable with the idea of taking guys who aren't that special and just scheming it up. I mean, he was playing with guys like James Thrash and Todd Pinkston back in the day in Philadelphia until he had to go get Deshaun Jackson and Jeremy Maclin and Shady McCoy because it was like, okay, my stuff's not really getting it done.
And Terrell Owens is what ultimately took him to the Super Bowl.
And Terrell Owens. Maybe that's what he becomes this time around. It says we got to go find those kind of players again for this kind of offense because, again, Mahomes was great, but he can't be great with what we have around him.
Overhaul at the skill positions. Is that what we're talking about, Sam? Is that what, a big part of the equation as well? Would that solve what the offense looks like if he just had better skill positions?
Yeah, I mean, but I think that needs to extend to the backfield. I mean,
for sure.
I mean, the Chiefs face light boxes on 49% of their snaps on first and second down. It's the highest in the league. They're 20th yet. It's the most favorable running conditions in the entire NFL. They're 23rd in the league in yards before contact. They're 25th in the league in yards after contact. They're 31st in the league in avoided tackles. They're 32nd in the league in explosive runs. They're one of only 4 teams in the NFL that did not have an explosive rushing touchdown all season. And by the way, this whole under center as a magic potion was total bullshit. They had, what they did
it did end up being that. You're right.
You know what they did on Sunday? They ran under center. 8 of 11 times that Isaiah Pacheco carried the ball, it was an under center run. You know how many yards he got on those 8 carries? 14. 1.8 yards per carry. They ran 17 times under center in the last 2 weeks combined for 41 yards. This is not a run under center problem. This is a personnel issue. They need better running backs. And the number one headline of all of this that I've just said, it was foreseeable. All 3 of us all offseason talked about they don't have enough at the running back position. And I don't know why they determined, and I think you could play psychologist and say, hey, they believed in their guys too much. Hey, they thought the scheme would overcome their lack of talent. But whatever it was, they didn't have enough talent at running back this year.
They thought the scheme would overcome the lack of talent, but keep in mind, 2nd round pick for Sky Moore, 1st round pick for Xavier Worthy when you trade up. We know the ones. I know the Sky Moores. By the way, once DK Metcalf leaves his original team, like we're done with the DK Metcalf Sky Moore. Like, it's still and DK Metcalf hasn't really done squat for the Pittsburgh this year. He's had a couple of plays here or there, but he is not what he used to be. So settle down, right? But that style of wideout, I mean, I agree. In the Chiefs, Brett Veach has said it in interviews. Yes, that was a mistake, right? They know it. We've all covered that. So, let's move forward into where they are right now and stop having 8 years ago's draft, okay? Right? Like, I think one of the things that they need to understand, too, when we talk about running the ball, I think, Sam, you make a great point. It did look like, if you just get under center, that would solve it. I do think they need more under center. I know it was not the idea that was the silver bullet. You're 100% right. That did not prove to be the case. But I'll tell you the other thing is, do you think Xavier Worthy and Hollywood Brown are blocking anybody when you do run the ball? Like when you talk about explosive runs, part of what you need is, yes, you have to beat somebody in a phone booth at the line of scrimmage, or you have to run over somebody. You have to have those skills. But then after you get to 7 yards, like the guy the wideout was supposed to block can't be taking your legs out from under you. And Xavier Worthy couldn't block any of the 3 of us on this podcast. Okay?
Well, maybe me, but yeah.
but like you can't that's another reason why these other teams have these bigger wideouts. It's part of it. And you can even look at Andy Reid's offense when they had Conley and they had even
Demarcus Robinson was a great blocker.
Yeah. Robinson, even Sammy Watkins, there were bigger receivers that had a chance to be better blockers. And when you run Hollywood Brown and Xavier Worthy out there, who do you think either one of those guys is going to block? I mean, you watch him walk into that interview room, you're just like, dude, whose kid's up here at the podium? Like,
I mean, I don't know that I disagree. I will say I think they're a step shy of that still. I mean, Isaiah Pacheco's longest carry on Sunday was 7 yards.
Oh,
he got the ball 11 times. I don't disagree with your point. But I think they're still a step shy of
even getting to that level.
Yes. I mean, they're not getting to the second. These running backs aren't getting to the second level.
Yeah, but Sam's making a good point though. It's like I was talking to Todd Haley for something I'm doing this past weekend. We were talking about just how the league is becoming more of a throwback, league again, where it's defense and run game and play action under center. And he's just like, you got to run the football because this whole league is built around stopping the pass. Now there's just too many little guys on the field. Like speed doesn't matter as much. The other team's got a whole bunch of fast guys running around out there, and are really playing you. Take that away. If all you're going to do is throw into that, you're not going to have great success no matter who's throwing the football.
Yeah. It turns out that the best passing game is a passing game that gets to play against a team defending the run, and the Chiefs the Chiefs never get that opportunity because teams do not fear the consequence of playing the pass against the Chiefs,
like the Chargers in Week 1, right?
Yes,
what they did,
exactly that.
And it's staggering. I mean, I think a big part of Andy Reid's career is that for 20 years, the man was throwing the ball and teams kept going, yeah, but you're going to have to run. And so we're going to keep heavy boxing you. And he'd just keep throwing. Well, they finally said, you're not going to. And now you've eroded the running back position to the point that even if you try to, you can't. You can't do it to us. And they finally caught up to Andy Reid. Now the question is, could he adjust back and get going back in the next direction? Right? That's the next thing to see. All right. I want to get into whether or not the Chiefs are a soft team. We'll talk about the defense playing well without Trent McDuffie after you hear from our friends at Northland Injury Law. Northland Injury Law, Kansas City's Google 5-star rated personal injury lawyers, serving KC for more than 40 years, voted Kansas City's #1 accident lawyers, helping people with serious injuries from car accidents, work accidents, falls, and other personal injuries. Northland Injury Law doesn't get paid unless they get money for their client. Don't wait. Get compensated now. If you have a case, text HURT to 22222. That's HURT to 22222. Or call 816-400-HURT. That's 816-400-4878. The choice of a lawyer is an important one and should not be based solely upon advertisements. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, proudly serving the greater Kansas City area. Nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor. Locally owned and making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Let Gann educate you about the most cost-effective way to solve your parking lot problems. With free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews, and every project comes with a written warranty, Gann Asphalt keeps your parking lot safer and helps you and your business avoid unnecessary delays and costly expenses. Find Gann online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lot. Jeff, let's put it this way. Is this a soft team? In a league that we talk about all these things, like you got to run the ball, you got to do that. Has it become a more physical league?
Why are we starting with Jeff, Soren? Let's just start with you.
Yeah.
I think they're a soft team. Yes, 100%. I absolutely think they're a soft team. I mean, I think I made it pretty clear. I mean, I think I tweeted a couple of times during the game, soft. Right? Just like I think that they're a finesse team. I think part of it, like soft takes on a lot of incarnations, right? I think Chris Jones is soft, right? Like I think when you stand and watch and you don't even try to fight through a double team, that's soft play. Period. End of discussion. I am a big believer in the fact that the Patriots, the Steelers and Ravens to me lose themselves in an effort to be physical and tough. They go too far with it. They're more interested in blowing people up than they are being schematically sound and those kind of things. And I think that always harmed them in games against the Patriots, who wanted to be more cerebral and take care of things. So I am not out to see this team turn into what the Steelers and Ravens defenses did for a long time when they were butting heads with each other, because I don't think that's what it's about. But I do think there has to be a level of physicality. They clearly don't have it on the offensive side. And I think on the defensive side, they're lacking it as well. I mean, who are the guys that you think are physical on the Chiefs? Who would you say are physical football players on the Chiefs?
Trey Smith, Creed Humphrey, Brian Cook,
Leo Chenal.
Kareem Hunt, Leo Chenal.
And
Nick
I think
Bolton.
Drew Tranquil plays with a physicality too.
Nick Bolton.
Yeah, but I get your point. I mean, I don't like calling pro football players soft, but I think they're definitely a finesse team. Like I remember the Eagles talking about them, seeing the film of the Eagles talking about them before last year's Super Bowl, and they were like, "We're gonna kick these guys' ass." And I think Lane Johnson said, "This is a finesse team, and we're gonna kick their ass all game long. They can't handle us." And physicality is definitely a mindset. And the Steelers, the Ravens, the Lions, those teams cultivate that. There's no question about it. I don't know if you have to be fully 100% that way to be what you're talking about with this team, but it's clear. Like the last two games they played, the Chargers and the Texans felt like they were going to come and they were going to push them around. There was no question about it. The hits that being dealt on Rashee Rice and that receiving core, those were statement hits. Like we're going to knock you in the next year, and you're going to feel us. And that's the way Jim Harbaugh wants to play. That's the way D'Amico Ryans wants to play. And it does when we start talking about the run game, when we start talking about these other things, that is something they don't practice that stuff. They don't cultivate that kind of mentality. And this league is becoming more about that again. And it's I said it before, it's becoming more like 2000 when the Ravens and the Giants went up in the Super Bowl because they were physical teams. And you start looking at these teams that are up and coming and getting better and who's coaching them. A lot of these teams are being coached by people who really value running the football, being physical, and getting after it. And I think the Chiefs have to adjust to that as well.
Are they soft, Sam?
Yeah, I agree with Jeff that like NFL players, it's hard for me to call soft. I don't view this team as soft, but I don't think it'd be a bad thing if like that was their reaction to this season, because I don't think it's a bad thing if their response is to become a more physical team. And particularly, I think that applies to the defensive line because the defensive line got beat consistently throughout this season. And so like if your reaction is, hey, you've got to get better in the trenches, because I think this label of, how physical you are as a team really starts in the trenches, and sometimes it ends in the trenches as well. And so if your determination is, hey, we were too soft this year, you got to get better in the trenches, I don't think that's a bad place to start for the Chiefs this offseason. And we're going to have offseason shows. We're going to be talking about draft picks that are probably in the top half of the draft, that the Chiefs are going to be having their most important draft picks since they took Patrick Mahomes. If that's a pick that starts in the trenches, I don't think that's a bad thing for the Chiefs.
Well, and I'll add this before you go, Soren. It's like the defense gets affected by how the offense practices. And so if all you're practicing is passing, or 80% of what you're practicing is passing, the defense is going to adapt to that and how they prepare for you and how they prepare for other teams. When you're in training camp and all you're running is pass plays, or you're running 20% run plays, it's trouble. When Jeff Fisher was coaching Tennessee Titans, there was a reason why they were fighting every time they got into a joint practice with somebody, because they wanted to knock you in the mouth. And that was their mentality. And so that's part of this as well.
Yeah, but and everyone's coming to the defensive side. Like, I think the defensive backs tackle, like, the defense isn't my concern. No, I don't think they beat the hell out of you like the Steelers and Ravens do. But Chris Jones is the one that I just softness is does not mean that you're, a coward. You don't walk out on an NFL field without bravery. I mean, I don't care, even if you're as big as Chris Jones, because there are other big men running around knocking people around. Like, you go out there and you're going to take some shots. Like, Chris Jones got decleated in that game. He's 6'6", they list him at 310 now, and he's coming for Herbert, thinks he's going to get after him, and he gets like a peel back block that he goes ass over heels, and his shoulders are the first thing hit the ground. Like, every time you step out there, you're going to get hit. So I'm not questioning toughness, but I'm questioning, and I think it's more on the offensive side of the ball. I will question when, and Tim Grunhard brought up a good point. He said, when you're losing and it's starting to get away from you, everything hurts more. How many times did guys go down, lay on the field, get up, come out for 2 plays, and come back in? Now, maybe that's just the mindset and it's the psychology of it's over. I know it's over, and I can't stop it. It's one of the reasons why I don't care if Patrick Mahomes didn't get hurt; they still weren't winning that game, right? Like, they knew they weren't winning that game. That's the feeling I had all day. It's a feeling that's finally settled in on me when we get to our picks on the team, and why I was, at least picking the cover for the opposition. But like the soft side of it is too, like the Steelers have a 311-pound tight end. The Chargers have a 296-pound fullback. The Ravens have a 290-pound fullback. They don't even have a fullback, and the fullback that they kind of have is a guy that's really a running back that they just kind of don't want to give up on, right? But they don't play heavy personnel. Their tight ends are all glorified wide-out transition type guys, right? Like, hell, the one tight end's a former quarterback, okay? So, like, they have not embraced a physical style of football at all in any way, shape, or form on the offensive side. And that's where, to your point, Jeff, the little people are playing on defense to run around and take the pass away. And so the teams, to me, that are ahead of the curve are putting bigger people on the field to take advantage of the little people over there. That's one of the founding principles of Bill Belichick. Little guy against a big guy wins. I mean, and there's none of that with the Chiefs. They don't have a big guy anywhere. Not any of their tight ends measure up and you go, okay, there's your Jonathan Hayes, or there's your, like I said, Washington with the Steelers. And, like, they don't have anybody that, like, we're going to lean on you. We're going to make a statement. We're going to beat you up. They don't have any players to do that with. It's all in Kareem Hunt to do it all by himself.
Yeah, that's why I don't know. I think Sam made a great point. Like, you just don't know what this is going to look like because there's so much uncertainty around the quarterback. Like, whatever they do, and I imagine they're going to do something schematically, how can you really implement that with the quarterback can't practice? Like, he kind of defeats the purpose, right? He's the engine of it, and he can't be a part of it. And so, how do you really begin to think about this? That's why I think this is going to be a 2-year transition process for whatever this iteration that's ending ends up becoming next. Because I fully think that you could have, like, all these skill guys, the majority of them being gone by 27. I could see a lot of these guys not being around in a couple of years.
Who's still here?
Sam? What?
Who?
Bashard Smith would probably still be here because he's a young guy, and Worthy would be going to his fifth year option. They have to make a call on that.
Bashard Smith is around for what?
Yeah. Well, I'm saying he'd be under contract.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's his third year. Yeah. You're not cutting.
It's like, you're not getting rid of it.
Well, let me just say this. If you can't get better than Bashard Smith 3 years from now, then this team is winning like 5 games. I don't. What do we? Somebody help me out.
It all hinges on Bashard.
It doesn't all hinge on Bashard Smith.
Yeah.
But that's.
I'm saying, how many guys do you think right now on this roster are going to be here a couple years from now?
More than anybody wants.
Skill guys. Yeah.
More than anybody wants to admit, because they're so screwed, because they're $35 million over the cap right now, right? So, like, Hollywood Brown won't be. Like, hey, you want to be back? Here's a veteran minimum. Somebody will give him more, but he can't be back. If he is, I will throw up my hands, and I will be. People think I'm you, Jeff. They'll be like, "Holy cow, what the hell's going on?" Because I'll be picking them for the record. There has to be change. Like, I mean, Xavier Worthy will probably be on this team, but he shouldn't be more than like the 4th or 5th option. I mean, until they get some people like I said, when they drafted him, I said, I really hope he's not the Oz Akeem. Like, that's the fear. Like, the Rams.
Not even that.
Well, I know, but they got Oz Akeem to return kicks, and he was like the 4th or 5th guy, and he could bust a big one on you. I'm like, that's what he kind of feels like to me. Bashard Smith went 6 rounds after Trung candidate, right? That's what a lot of these moves feel like to me. Mike Martz got a hold of the Rams offense, and he forgot that Dick Vermeil would still punch you in the mouth. And all his fun stuff, that's all he wanted to do. And they started making personnel moves like that. And the offense, the whole team eroded. I mean, especially on the offensive side, using draft picks up that high on guys that weren't difference makers is a problem.
Damn, that's gotten bad.
I mean, if they finish, I mean,
How are you the only one who said it was acceptable to miss the playoff?
That's right.
I do think
it got dark in a hurry.
I do think it's acceptable to miss the playoffs once, but I think I just want to be clear. Like, I think the writing is on the wall, and I think it's very clear.
I think what actually is the takeaway from this is we're having these conversations now. We had these conversations last year about their faults. They needed to have more of these conversations last offseason about what their faults actually were during that 15-1 season.
Yeah. But what But don't you agree that once they determined that they were going to pay Nick Bolton and they were going to pay Trey Smith, that's it. There was nothing else they could. What were you going to do?
Yeah, but like I said on your show today, I mean, the bill for those mistakes comes due next year.
I know.
I mean, this was the year that you had the advantage of making those decisions, and that's why I don't think it's acceptable to be talking about a team that's already been eliminated for the playoffs here on December 16th.
But those moves also look better when you're coming off a Super Bowl and you're thinking we're going to keep contending for Super Bowls. When you're where you are now, those are bad contracts right now because they keep you from going out and getting other players to help you who could be more impactful, right? There's nothing wrong. Obviously, Nick Bolton and Trey Smith are good players and good people and big part of this, but you need more than that. And you're not going to win championships just with those guys being some of your more highly paid players. You're going to have some dynamic guys being those. The Trent McDuffie situation,
dynamic positions. I mean, you said they're not great. Contracts now.
Exactly.
They weren't great. They weren't great contracts then. They weren't great contracts in the offseason because of the positions they play. And when you play the quarterback, what you pay, you've got to get those dynamic guys at more impactful positions on the field.
Exactly. And so that's what we'll get into Trent McDuffie here. But it's just you got to start losing guys that you care about and you think are really good players to start climbing out of this mess. And he's at the top of the list. He and Travis Kelce are at the top of the list. If you want to bring Travis Kelce back or he wants to play football again next year, it better be for $5 million. And Trent McDuffie better be somebody you're thinking about moving fast because you can't be paying to keep these guys around after the season you just had.
Yeah,
you can't keep everybody.
That is the rule, and that's what makes it. Because I think we'd all say, you can keep one of three: Trey Smith, Nick Bolton, and Trent McDuffie. Which one are you keeping? And I think to a man, all three of us would have said Trent McDuffie. But you've already paid the other two.
Yes,
right. That's the problem, and they have played good defense 2 weeks in a row, basically with no Trent McDuffie. So what does that say, Sam?
Yeah, I mean, I would on this last week in particular. I don't think Noah Williams had a great day. I would point out that the past 2 weeks have been their highest percentage of pressuring the quarterback. The last 2 weeks, the secondary looks a hell of a lot better when you can actually put pressure on the quarterback. So I don't view that as a secondary issue. You're losing Jalen Watson, most likely. I mean, none of us have Jalen Watson coming back the same way none of us had Charvarius Ward coming back after the 22-21 season. Is because
unless that's the option, is to keep Watson at a much cheaper price than it would be.
Yeah, but I mean, this is a team that's not it's not just a Jalen Watson, Trent McDuffie. What about Brian Cook? What about Leo Chenal? You're going to lose these 22 draft guys. And this is from the same consequence of signing Nick Bolton to the money you signed him, of signing Trey Smith to the money you signed him. I mean, and this isn't hindsight. This is why we critiqued these deals when they were made, is because this is the effect of them. Is now you're in these decisions that we're sitting here analyzing that we should be saying you've got enough money to sign Trent McDuffie. And, I'll point out the obvious because the obvious in this situation is worth pointing out. You won 2 Super Bowls after you traded Tyreek Hill. It was a franchise-changing decision for the long term. And there hasn't been a lot of moves since then that have been prioritizing the long-term window. A lot of it has been prioritizing the short term here now. And I get it. First team to repeat in 20 years. First team to three-peat in NFL history. I get prioritizing the short term in that sense.
First team to get to play for a third Super Bowl.
Yeah, well, I'm saying that that was the carrot.
Okay.
First team to three-peat ever. I get pursuing that. This offseason was less explainable to me because I didn't understand why the priority was on 25 over 26, 27, 28.
I think the other thing is they've got to get to the point when when you go to Creed Humphrey and you go to Trey Smith with the numbers and you say, this is what we can do, and they go, no, then they go bye-bye. Creed Humphrey said yes. They signed him. Trey Smith said no. They offered him more later.
Well, Creed Humphrey got paid. Creed Humphrey got 3 more than any other center in the league still. That was an easier one to say yes to, right?
Yeah, but I think that's partially just because the centers weren't as good. I mean, do you really think –
that's a good point.
Yeah, I think the center position was undervalued.
Yeah.
And you could pretty much put all those interior guys. But Creed Humphrey's making significantly less than Trey Smith right now.
Yeah.
And which, if I said you can have one but not the other, which one would you take?
Creed Humphrey, because I think he's the best at his position in the league.
Every day, Creed Humphrey over Trey Smith.
But I do want to point out, Stern, sorry to interrupt, Stern, but I think it's important to say, because Jeff said it earlier, but I want to underscore it. Nick Bolton and Trey Smith are great players. They're great in the locker room.
Yes.
This is not an indictment of the players. And I think that needs to be underscored and have that distinction made is this is about the position they play and the amount you have to pay him. Somebody should be paying Trey Smith that contract. This is one about the Chiefs can afford to be that team to pay him that contract.
He should be getting paid that by the Carolina Panthers.
Yep.
Right? By a team that's on the ascent, that isn't paying their quarterback, that's trying to bring in a championship mentality, and they overpay for that guy to bring in a toughness and a mindset. That's what should have happened. The Chiefs should have been walking, and somebody should have been like, well, we got to go have this guy. Kind of like the Bears did with Joe Thuney. It should have been a similar situation like that. And, I just that's where they have to get. And with Trent McDuffie, I mean, it's at some point you got to make hard decisions. Right. And I think that's where it is. I know the Chiefs like all the guys that they like, and they want to keep everybody together. And I know maybe it wasn't as fun playing for Bill Belichick, but you're in the win business. I mean, you got to make winning decisions.
The replacement business.
Yeah, for sure. It'll be interesting what they do for these last three games. I will tell you that. I think they're going to play poorly and probably beat the Raiders and Titans. I think they're going to play well against the Broncos and probably lose. I think that's what the last three are going to.
Still going to unleash the fury on Friday.
I think they're going to play well against the Broncos and lose. I want to be clear. Did I say that wrong?
No, I said this Friday. You got them winning this Friday.
The Titans game.
So on this Friday, you're still going to unleash the fury.
No. They're going to play like crap against the Titans, but the Titans suck, and so they'll back ass into a sloppy, ugly win. Do the same thing against the Raiders.
And it doesn't even help them for the drafts doing that.
No.
Hey, I'm going to lose.
Listen,
out.
Sit anybody whose gut is not feeling good. You're sitting, right? Like, go ahead. I'd be all for it. Listen, I'm all for you supporting our great sponsors here on the Red, Gold, and Bold, like Gann Asphalt and Concrete. They've been with us almost from the beginning. Certainly, Gann Asphalt and Concrete can help you with any of your parking lot needs. They've been solving parking lot problems in Kansas City since 1994, locally owned and operated. Find them online at GannAsphalt.com. One contractor, all things parking lot, and, of course, our great friends at Northland Injury Law. Listen, if you've been hurt in an accident, whether it's at work, a fall, car accident, personal injury, they can help you out. Just text HURT to 22222 if you have a case. That's HURT to 22222, or call 816-400-HURT, voted Kansas City's #1 accident lawyers. For Jeff Chadiha from the NFL Network, Sam McDowell from the Kansas City Star, I'm Soren Petro saying thank you very much for joining us here on the Red, Gold, and Bold.